This is an introduction to how to do the article outline activity, which is due on Tuesday, October 9th in class. And the document is called Article Outline, Shepard and Slavov. So let's go into the next part, which is first get your documents. So the documents that you'll need and that will be helpful is the actual assignment itself. So it's the document is called Article Outline, Shepard, Slavov, and it was handed out in class on October 4th, and it's also on Blackboard. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to see that if you log into Blackboard, it'll look something like this. You can go to Course Documents, and we're in Unit 2, so you'd go to Unit 2, and then scroll to the bottom, see Week 6, Day 2, the October 4th, and then you can if you don't have the article yourself, or if you prefer to do it typed up, you can download the assignment and open it up. So you've got the assignment open. And then let's see, the next thing you're going to need the articles themselves. So that's A's for Everyone by Alicia Shepard, and then How to Fix Grade Inflation by Sita Slavov. And another tool that I recommend, you can't always count on having this, but the reading questions that were given for each type of, or for each article. And in each article, some questions were intentionally asked to draw your attention to certain parts of the article and pull out the main themes from you. So I do encourage you to use those as a guide and see what you can get from them. All right, so now that you've got all your documents, and I am going to show you that right here I've got the article outline. Actually, I've got 2 copies of the article outline. I'm just going to close this one. And you can see I've got the Shepard reading questions. I've got the Shepard article. I've got the Slavov article, and then also the Slavov reading questions. So I'm good to go with all of my documents. If you need a moment to get your own documents, go ahead, pause this, and take that moment to get them. Otherwise, I am going to go on with the instructions or some recommendations for how to think about this process and kind of move yourself forward in case you're stuck. So I recommend going not in the order of the items on the paper themselves. And you'll remember we did this type of exercise for Stoller and Murray. So we're just doing something kind of similar to what we've done before. The first thing I think that makes the most sense to do is to do the arguments. So that means that if you're looking at the document, you're going to be looking at the tables, part 3, the arguments and the evidence. And I think this will get you really sort of intimate with some of the more basic details of the article that are a little less up for interpretation, whereas the audience and the purpose, the main claim, those are things that require a little more interpretation, require a few extra steps. So go to the arguments, and here are some questions that you can think about as you're trying to find the arguments. So look at the articles, look at the questions, and do this one article at a time so that you're not juggling too much information. And think, how would you chunk the information together? So look at the reading questions. What kinds of things are they talking about? And you can make notes in the reading. So how would you categorize the topic of each paragraph? Think about maybe what the author's trying to accomplish. Think about what themes emerge. For example, you have a problem solution, a cause and effect. What is the author describing? So think about like what themes happen. So for example, in the Shepard article, you see a bunch of examples of how students are kind of pushing and causing grade inflation. She talks a little bit about the history of grade inflation. So see what kinds of themes, how the examples are tied together, and what categories you can place on a lot of the information and a lot of what's written in the article. What broad like 3 or 4 categories you can draw that would categorize most of what is happening in the article. And then, of course, after that, look for your evidence, find the examples, and then so if you're looking at the evidence, and then the next thing that's asked for in the table is the type of evidence. So the evidence is the specific examples from the article. So that means what someone says, what people are doing, something like that. And then the type of evidence is a little is broader. So that means something like, is it a personal testimony? Is it statistics? Is it a professional opinion? So it's going to be broader. So with the arguments, you're going kind of broad. The evidence, you're going very specific. And you can even start out with the evidence and see how you can chunk it together and then go to the broad topic of arguments. So you go broad with the arguments, specific with the evidence, and then broad with the type of evidence. So, but the arguments and the type of evidence are broad in different ways. So those are arguments and finding evidence. The next thing is going to be audience. So you have to think about who's reading this article, who does the author want to read this article. So in order to think about that, here are some questions to help guide you in that process. So what type of publication is the article appearing in? So who reads the publication? Think about the typical person who buys it. And then what is the mission of the publication? Many times these publications are not a lot of times journalism can be, or certain publications are consumed by a certain type of person. Who's the owner and what are they like? What kinds of organizations or what kinds of beliefs do they have? So think about those things to maybe try and narrow down the audience. And then also think about who does the author themselves want to reach? So in terms of the publication, that's something that might be broad. And then within that audience, who does the author want to reach? So think about who will benefit from the author's message, or who does the author think will benefit from the message? Who will be receptive to the author's message, which is different from benefiting, because as we saw in something like the Stoller article, possibly anti-intellectuals would benefit from Stoller's article, but they wouldn't necessarily be receptive to it, because I think that there could be some negative things in there that would maybe turn them off from trying to be receptive to it. And also think about who will buy the publication that features the author's message. So again, think about the author. They are smart enough to know that even if they want someone who is opposite from them to take their opinion, they're probably smart enough to know that they can't always reach that person. So they're going to be reaching probably within a certain circle of like-minded individuals, but might be writing for someone a little bit different than themselves. So those are some questions to think about when you're thinking about audience. The next thing I want to go on to is purpose. So think about, why did the author write the article? What do they want to happen as a result of someone reading the article? And those are a couple questions you can ask. And then don't forget, because when you are thinking about all these different pieces of information, you have to try and remember the audience and arguments, because all these pieces have to fit together. So that means remember the audience and arguments from your previous work that you've just done. So what happens as a result of the audience learning the arguments? So you can think about, now they learn this information, what are they going to go and do with it? Why is that important? How does that help the author accomplish some goal they might have? So think about that when you're thinking about the purpose. All right, so the next thing I'm going to build into is the main claim. So think about all the previous information, the arguments, the evidence, the audience, and the purpose, and pull these items all together. So specifically, really pull the arguments together, because those are going to kind of form the basis of your main claim, and you're going to get some direction from the audience and the purpose. So you can think about with Stoller, we had these these arguments that Anti-intellectualism exists. Anti-intellectualism does not, or can be detrimental, is bad, has negative effects, and then intellectualism has positive effects. So that was sort of the basis of the main claim, but we needed to like change it just a little bit. So anti-intellectualism has these problems but can be solved by intellectualism and going to college. So, and exposing yourself to these new ideas. So you need to take it a little bit further than just the arguments that you have. So think about it, make it a little more specialized. All right, finally, look at tone. So think about what language is being used. Are they are they trying to make jokes? Are they being harsh and critical? So remember, like that's going to be like the personality or maybe the tone of voice and how you'd imagine it being read, what face is being made maybe when it's being read. So also think about what tone will be effective in accomplishing the author's goals set out in the purpose for the given audience. So think about that, make sure it matches kind of with the main claim and all the other pieces that you've just put together. And that is an important part. You do have to check once you're done, so make sure these pieces all fit together. So if there's a mismatch between the arguments, main claim, purpose, audience, and tone, then you might need to change something. So that's the overview that I have for you, kind of to help think about some things so that you have a little, hopefully maybe a little more guidance with the process of completing the assignment that's due on Tuesday. I'll try and make some videos that go through the different parts so that you can have a little more guidance, but I'm hoping this is a good start. All right, good luck.